Time and time again, I see common mistakes which brands make when they're tracking their SEO. So I've picked out probably my top five mistakes. So the first one is not benchmarking your performance against the industry. So what this chart on the screen here is search demand for two different things. So search demand for credit cards, that's the blue line, and then search demand for payday loans. And you can see there that as consumers' short-term borrowing behaviour has changed, people are borrowing less on credit cards and they're getting more payday loans. But this is really interesting because one of our clients, we've ranked them on page one for credit cards now for a number of years, and over time the click volume that they do get from that keyword has dropped. And on the face of things, you might look at that and go, is our visibility as good as it might be? But when you put it in this context, you can actually see that even though your click volumes are going down, your visibility is still good, but your share of voice remains as good as it was. So overall, there are less clicks available. It's just you're getting the bigger share of what there is there. So unless you have that perspective, you don't really know how you're performing against your competitors. And you could take the opposite as well. You could take payday loans, for example. More people are searching for payday loans than ever before. So if your search traffic is up, let's say 5%, but the overall search demand is up 20%, well, actually, you're moving backwards, right? You need to make sure that your share of voice remains as good as it is. You can't just benchmark your performance on clicks because it might just be there's more people searching for what you're selling. So that's one common mistake. And until you have that perspective, you don't actually know how you're performing compared to your competitors. The second one is keywords, right? So, historically with SEOs, what they like to do is they'll pick out, 10 to 15 keywords, and they'll say, we'll get you from positions 10 to 1. And what SEO companies are quite good at is picking keywords which aren't very competitive. So they're often not very competitive because they don't have a lot of volume associated to it. So this is kind of way a lot of brands will measure their SEO performance, is that they will receive a ranking report once a week, and it has some green arrows pointing up and some red arrows going down. And I'm not going to dismiss that keywords are important for measuring SEO, they certainly are, but brands just don't pick the right keywords or they're not measuring enough. Now, the utopia situation is that you have unlimited amount of keywords you're tracking, and we work with Searchmetrics who get keyword data for 2 million different keywords, so that is obviously the utopia situation where you get an overall visibility of your brand. But brands still need to make sure that when they're producing their own internal ranking reports, that they are picking keywords which do reflect business performance, i.e., if your rankings go up, you can see that in terms of your clicks and you can see that in terms of your sales. I'm sure most of you have received a rankings report where rankings are up, but you look at your Google Analytics and it doesn't look too different. So there's another way how brands just don't measure SEO very accurately. The third is in terms of other media. So for a lot of SEO companies, what they tend to be is they tend to be siloed away. They might not even be part of your media buying company, and they'll deliver their traffic report at the end of the week, and they'll say, look, we delivered 10,000 clicks this week, and you're like, well, that's fantastic, but what SEO agencies often don't understand, and companies don't understand, is where did those clicks come from? I'm very fortunate that we do work for a media agency, so we do work alongside the media buyers, and we plotted the TVR, so that's TV ratings and how many people saw the TV advert against the search demand that it created. And then having this perspective is really good, not firstly because A, you understand where your clicks are coming from, but B, you know how well your TV and your other above-the-line activities performing for you, which kind of links on to the next one, really, which is brand and generic. A lot of SEOs are like, we delivered 10,000 clicks this week, and like, great. But what people don't know is kind of like the proportion of their clicks which are brand and those are generic, right? Because brand traffic usually accounts for about 80% of your overall web analytics, but they are just people going to Google to come to your website. They're not as valuable as people perhaps searching for iPhone and then coming to your website, because that's where you're going to get more people coming to your company. What people also don't understand in terms of brand and generic is kind of like, what is the value of generic for me? Because if you look on a last touch attribution model, you'll see that brand terms convert exceptionally well. And that's pretty normal, but if you look at generic terms, they don't convert so well on the last touch basis. So you kind of look at your traffic and go, does SEO really deliver results for me? If you look at the halo effect of those generic terms, that's when you actually see the value of them. So if someone comes through an iPhone and goes, 3 Mobile has some excellent tariffs for that phone, and then come back a day later and then search for 3 and then convert, how do you understand the value between that generic term and that brand term within your natural search performance? And it's never been easier than before to do this. So there's 2 real problems with tracking natural search, or two challenges, should I say. So the first one is what's known as encrypted search. So for those who aren't aware, if you are logged into Google, or if you use one of the most modern browsers, such as I think it's the latest Chrome 25, or the latest Firefox, when you use those search engines, the keyword that you enter into Google isn't passed to the website. So if one of your users are using those, then we don't know what keyword they used. And that's important, right? Because we want to know, what keywords do they use, which of our campaigns are successful, what converts really well, what do our search users want. But Google doesn't give us that data anymore. And, again, I don't want to be too cynical, but, it only does affect organic search. So the reason why Google do that is it's a privacy issue. So they think that if someone's searching something in Google, that is information which belongs to Google. That isn't information which should be shared to the websites, which I can sympathise with. However, it does only apply to organic search. It doesn't apply to paid search, which is obviously very interesting. How many search queries does this affect? I took March for 2012 and then March for 2013. And for March 2012, you can see that not provided, i.e. that's encrypted queries, traffic where we have no idea what the keyword was. That actually only accounted for 10% of traffic, but just a year later, that is already 36%. So just a month ago, I don't have data on the keywords for 36% of my traffic, which is very scary for me. And earlier I spoke about kind of like doing page search and SEO tests where you turn down PPC and your SEO goes up. Well, look, if you're looking at face value at your SEO numbers, then they're underreported by 36%. So if you're turning off a keyword and putting one on in terms of organic search, then you need to add another 36% of those click volumes to get a true representation of that test. If you don't do that, there's no value in doing that test, and it could actually be reducing the amount of business you get. iOS 6 is the operating system on the most latest Apple devices, so that is iPhone and iPad. And essentially, this should alarm you, because we can't actually track people using these devices at all. If someone does a search on their iPhone and they come in through the search bar, that cannot be tracked as natural search at all. What Apple and Google have done is it will strip out any tracking whatsoever. So if anyone's searching on those devices, rather than appearing within natural search on your Google Analytics or your ad server, what it will appear as is direct. So I'm sure if you've got someone within your organisation that looks after the direct bucket and they're seeing their traffic going up month on month, they're probably thinking, wow, that TV campaign's working really well. People are coming straight to our website. It's wrong, right? It's natural search traffic. So I guess the question is, how much does this impact data? And the truth is that it does vary according to business. So depending on your audience, if you have a more tech-savvy audience who are more likely to use mobile phones, they will over-index on this, i.e., this will impact them more. Whereas in the opposite spectrum, we have some clients who target sort of like older audiences who don't have iPhones. So I think the key thing is just understanding how much it affects you, and just sort of like as an average across all of our accounts at Arena, it's about 15-17% of all traffic comes from an iOS 6 device now, which is just absolutely crazy. I guess the key takeaway for you is about 10% of your natural search traffic is falling into your direct bucket. So between encrypted search and iOS 6, I've shown you two ways that you might not be tracking your natural search performance. You're not taking in all of the keywords, and a lot of your traffic's going into the direct bucket rather than natural search. It just goes to illustrate, if you're not tracking your keyword data now, you should be doing so, because it's only going to disappear.